Why, hello there. I'm gonna start out by taking another sip from my delicious beverage. Alright, so today I'm gonna review the best of three between SKT and CJ Obviously, there might be some thought process behind why this game might not matter, etc., because the standings are already completed. I didn't really spend much time looking into that. I don't even know if the game matters or not, but I just know that there's some pretty decent games, and SKT showed some weaknesses in it, and they were so dominant in the season. So we're just gonna jump right into it because I know people have a low attention span. So right here we have the finished pick and ban. Well, before we head into pick and ban, I'm gonna try something new this time. I have reviewed the game before and put up a lot of points, so it'll be like more fluent. So hopefully you guys can give me some feedback on that as well. So right here we can take a look at the pick and ban. What I noticed was that SKT they banned the Kog'Maw, which is something CJ has played a lot in the past, and something they lost to against KT, the Kog'Maw Lulu composition. So I understand the fear behind it. They also banned the Rek'Sai Gragas and prioritized the Evelynn, which also makes sense in a bit because banning two junglers and first picking a jungler is also a common strategy. On CJ's side, we see the Kalista and the Rise ban, which has been like the red side perma ban in 5.12, which is the patch this game was played on, and it's just very common bans. In a few situations, you can see there's a trade-off between Kalista Rise, but it just hasn't worked out, so people just go for the safe option. And Rumble is just something that does not have any weak matchups and is a champion that is very good to first pick, especially for Marin. And if we continue on, we can see that CJ prioritized the Braum, which is also fine, something that we've seen a lot of, simply because there's a lot of poke champions coming into the meta, and Braum got a decent buff, and the fact that Braum is very strong in lane swaps, simply because he's one of the supports that has the highest DPS and longer fights, and his ganks are not bad at all, and he has this efficiency about him in these skirmishes that happen very often in lane swaps. And Alistar, of course, also the top tier support. And what's interesting here is to note is that CJ went for the Gnar into the Maokai, which I don't think is that strong anymore. I think it used to be something as of a counter where Maokai wins early, but it feels like teams have kind of evolved in a way that you can easily play around it. So I kind of dislike the Gnar. It feels almost like CJ is scarred from what happened in the previous game, where they lost the game to Marin's Gnar and then decided to ban it the next game and lost the series. That's basically the previous series. And we see SKT's response with the Vayne, which obviously in the bot lane, already now we can see that SKT are going to have the weaker matchup bot lane, and Vayne is going to be there to kind of counteract the Gnar split push, and it is generally very good against something like Nidalee, and also good against the Gnar because you can itemize lifesteal really early on, and lifesteal is good against poke generally. So it's like a good pick, but it's very weak in the matchup bot lane. So we're going to see that SKT want to aim for the lane swap, and I'm pretty sure CJ will be they will see it almost instantly because they will be in a weaker position in lane swap because Vayne will do really well against a Gnar. And what's interesting to note is that the Korean lane swap is very different from the European or North American lane swap, where we in the West we like to push in lanes and tower dive and push towers, while in Korea and also sometimes in LPL you kind of freeze the wave and set up for a support top lane, for support tank top lane duo bot lane. So that's important to note. And also the fact that SKT, usually in this kind of scenario, you either pick Azir or Victor blind because these are just champions that go with anything, don't have any weak matchups. But something that is worth noting is also the fact that Azir has some kind of a weakness against poke, but I think SKT have a good enough engage, and also the fact that they have Maokai, they don't have to be worried too much about poke. So Azir, I think, is the best pick here simply because it kind of provides you with some kind of a range. And overall, Faker Azir, you don't have to say more. and CJ go for the Ezreal. So like the compositions are very polarized. You can see that there's a poke composition on CJ side, and SKT have this engage composition. And I don't think the composition in a 5v5 matters. I think in this game specifically, as it will be highlighted, is the fact how the early game goes, because whoever gets ahead will be able to put themselves in a position where they are dominant. That is how basically the team compositions work. The early game is very impactful because if a game is played on a high level like this one between SKT and CJ, the team in the driving seat will put themselves in a position where they are stronger. That is why it's very, very important to highlight the early game as well. And in this game, SKT will want to have the lane swap, and CJ want to have the 2v2 lane bottom, so they can constantly pressure with the Nidalee, because Nidalee is a good pick into even a lot of cases, but the important thing to note about Evelynn is the fact that if you have dominant lanes, you cannot really gank if Evelynn doesn't show. There's like a risk, and you have to make consistent plays. Risk is bad. So pretty much what I want to see this game is that Nidalee pressure bottom side, the Corki Braum lane, which is going to be like the strength of this map on CJ's side. While SKT obviously want to swap around and play around the mid pressure, because it's more to note as well as the team that wins the early game is usually the team that can push two lanes. And already now in mid, you can see like CJ are gonna lock in the Ezreal, that Azir is gonna win mid. So it's very important that they can actually win the side lanes. And I think the easiest way for CJ to do it is to go around the lane swap and try to pressure the bottom lane 3v3, because they don't have to worry about the Evelynn not showing anywhere. While the 2v2 top lane is kind of a liability. It can go either way. You want to go for the consistent play. Every time go for the consistent play, because going for risks is bad and might lose your game, might win your game. You don't want to be in that kind of position. You want to make sure you have a consistent way of winning the game coming into the match. So we're going to speed up to my first point right here, 6:38, which is a very, very key point. You can see that CJ has already went in for the deep ward. Is common to just ward off all the entrances to the jungle. But something that is very beautiful to notice is that earlier here, you can see the Maokai actually spotted them. He spotted all of them. That basically means they have no vision in mid simply because of the timing, 0:50. Nobody could have been in mid. So the response from SK Telecom here is to just send Alistar and Vayne through the one side of the map that you can guarantee that CJ did not have warded. So this is, you can see they are basing, they're just waiting, because there's also a slight risk that CJ just walk out of the blue side jungle. But at this point they can kind of accept the fact that they're going to get the lane swap, because they're going to go through the only passage that CJ don't have warded. So already here, I think this was a very beautiful move, and it's kind of like I'm getting like this fucking League of Legends direction. Sorry for swearing. Getting a League of Legends direction from seeing this, you know. This is a beautiful move from Wolf and Bang, or SKT in general, and they kind of ensure themselves the lane swap, because Corki and Braum did not spot the Vayne and the Alistar in the kind of in the wall of wards that they created in all the entrances of the blue side jungle. So they kind of assumed that Vayne is going to go bottom lane, and they got kind of outplayed in that kind of fashion. Can go around to the next point. We can see the matchup Vayne against Gnar is going to be the tough matchup, and bottom lane, of course, Maokai and Alistar is going to be weaker against the Braum and the Corki. And this is usually the nature of lane swaps in Korea, that there's a 2v2 bottom with the tank and the support against AD support, and AD versus top lane in the top lane. And with that in mind, Vayne is going to be strong against Gnar. This is going to be a lane that I don't want Nidalee in, and bottom lane is going to be the lane I want Nidalee to pressure in. So move on to the next point, 10:20. There we go. So once again, I want to highlight the fact here, I want Nidalee to play around bottom side. You can see that they're taking risks all the time. Sure, they placed 2 wards right here, but I want them to emphasize on the fact that they should pressure the bottom side. It's kind of strange to me that Marin and specifically both are allowed to push this in. Sure, it was frozen before by Corki, but they should be pressured somehow. And I think the best way is for the Nidalee to play around that side. And you can see here, as I highlighted before, that Aziz is going to pressure the Ezreal all the time, and this is going to be a lane that nothing can be done about, because eventually the Ezreal is just going to die, and it's going to be over, you know? And we move on. My next point right here is a very small move here from SKT that I wanted to highlight. Right here, you see Bang. He has the opportunity to swap in. It kind of the emphasis I want to put on this is in the bottom lane, Corki and Madlife, basically Corki and Brown, did not apply pressure. So right now there's no pressure, they're still freezing, and Corki has not based. So right here, Vayne recognizes that, pushes in, bases, has an item advantage. This item advantage can be used for a lot. They can pressure the tower, they can pressure the dragon. So this is another smart move from SKT, and Space is kind of reacting late. You can see he's pushing in kind of a late moment. Marin is ahead, and it was a beautiful play from just the blue side team. I think they're gonna force a flash here. Yeah, I remember it. This is also another important note, because right here, like, you can see everything is almost mirrored. I think TPing here from Marin is very, very greedy, because they don't have any information on anybody except the Corki and the Ezreal mids. So there's a potential of them being 3 top sides. I think this should be Dovin. This should be very Dovin. But then again, actually I need to think about this. I can understand why they wouldn't want to dive, because the Gnar hasn't based, but usually you want to dive in this situation to kind of equalize the scenario you're put in. But you can see SK Telecom, out of what they achieved through the Vayne base, is the dragon. So it was a beautiful play, beautiful play. So you need to take a look once again at the moment we saw earlier where Maoka could have possibly been Dovin. Like, I can understand the thought process of not diving simply because Madlife is under-leveled. You can see that also Marin is at 6, he still has flash, so there's a risk. Xiao with no Mega Gnar, no items, it's understandable why they don't dive. This is just a thought. I'm just trying to dwell into the thought process of CJ Entus. So right here we're going to see the matchup that I said, Vayne, Corki, something's in my eye, oh, I'm getting all emotional, but Vayne versus Corki and like Alistair Brown. This matchup bot lane is going to be rough for the Vayne, but especially now when Marin has no teleport, so they're going to be pressured in bot lane. Marin does a beautiful roam. I think Coco is getting the faker treatment, you know, the casual tilt. Yeah, faker once again. Coco died. Yeah, just trying to find the point which I wanted to highlight the matchup bot lane, because it really shows in this one coming up. I think it should be right here. Alright, so we see the condemned is used. The matchup is kind of lacking on damage, and Madlife can deny a bunch from the Vayne, and the CC is very rough for the Vayne, so this is just a bad matchup generally. And you can see they win the all-in despite the kind of advantage they have on the map. And even though Marin equalizes with the TP top, this TP was only made possible simply because of the Gnar getting ganked earlier. And I wanted to also highlight the gank on top. Simply here, like, Nidalee is in the wrong side of the map. She should be pressuring bottom, because they lose this matchup 2v2 unless there's a Mega Gnar. So it's very, very easy to play around the Mega Gnar. And that's why I don't like the Gnar pick that much, simply because it is so predictable in a way. He has Mega Gnar, I'm in danger. He doesn't have Mega Gnar, I'm not under danger. So it's very, very easy to play around. And you can see Nidalee being in top side is what I don't like, and the kill on Gnar is going to just, like, Marin is very good at like applying the pressure he gains from top lane into other lanes. So right here, they do like I like that SKT commit to the all-in, but this also highlights the matchup, the tendencies of the matchup, and how it can actually impact it. Obviously, SKT wanted to set this up. Maybe Bang didn't need to die because he had flash. Maybe he should have flashed an ultimate. But I just wanted to highlight the nature of the matchup. Wolf should be dead, alright. He saved Marin at least. So, as I've said before, usually when a team is in the driver's seat, they're gonna be in control of the game. And obviously, right now SKT is ahead because of what happened in mids and the swap they created, and also the gank on top, the freed up the Maokai to pressure, also the Maokai roam into mid. So right now I'm going to talk a lot about SKT and what they should be doing correct, because CJ Entus just have to kind of hope that SKT do kind of a mistake, because if you're in the driver's seat, you're going to put yourself in the position where you're stronger, obviously, and CJ Entus are going to try to work to counteract that. And that's why I'm going to talk a lot about SKT in these upcoming minutes. So finally we see Nidalee in the bot lane. Finally. This is kind of late in the game. I wanted to see this earlier because it's so easy for them to set up ganks. So easy. Nidalee can pressure the bot lane so easily with the Braum. And right here you can see, like earlier, Marin TP'd bottom, so he has a TP disadvantage. Then the obvious smart play is to just play around the top side. There's no TP from the bot side to come into top. So there's nothing to save Shy in this scenario. They are strong against Nidalee. They saw the Nidalee bot side earlier when Alistar ulted. And I really like this play from Faker generally, because he has so much pressure mid. It's so easy for him to transition it everywhere. But if he transitioned it into bottom, it wouldn't matter that much, because Gnar can obviously teleport. And Gnar at this point has bought a lot of magic resistance, so he's gonna do well against Malka, and it's gonna be able to kind of push out. And seeing Faker doing this and recognizing this is like the top-notch play. I like it a lot, and there's no one to really save the Gnar, because if, let's say for example, Azir roamed into bottom, Ezreal would have followed, Maokai with no teleport would have pushed, but the Gnar has TP, they would have been in a 4v5 situation and would have been a liability. Why don't they need to just give up a little bit until Maokai gets his TP back up? So right here, my next point. Oh, this is once again beautiful. So the final thing that SKT did, it's like CJ Entus are trying to create something, which is nice as well, because they understand that they are in a bad position in terms of gold and in terms of matchups at this point. So it's hard for them to create anything out of nothing. So this is them trying to create something out of nothing, but I really like that SKT look at risk and probabilities. There's very few probabilities that CJ Entus can do to kind of create something. There's two things they can do. Either they sit in the bush, or they back off. They have vision right here, so there's not really, couldn't really do anything else. There's a probability of them being in the bush here. Azir knows they're either in base or they're in the bush, so he's going to pressure mid, and that way it's like Wolf is just saying, I'm going to check this bush, I have ultimate, it's fine. So I like the CJ Entus try to create something, which is the correct mindset if you're behind. I don't want to see like EU games where they are 60 minutes and there's just a bunch of mistakes. This is a high quality game, and CJ Entus are trying to create something out of nothing. And SKT read the probability, and there was a chance that this happened. They're trying to disengage. Once again, no TP on Maokai, so Shy wasting that one, and I really like that SKT did not overcommit. So from both sides, I like this play, because once again, CJ Entus are behind. Azir pressured mid because he knew the probabilities from before. Either they're in base or they're bottom. He recognized their bottom, and through this mid pressure, they can take full blue side ward jungle, even though bottom is even. So this is once again beautiful from SKT, and they're just playing out the game at this point. They're ahead, and this is the way it should be done. Just gonna move on to my next point. Should be around at 27 mark, 27 minutes. This is, I guess, yeah, we can show this play. I like to focus on the macro play, not the micro play. But this is once again a good TP. Marin is just really good at transitioning pressure. Something somewhat of what Huni does in Europe. He's good at transitioning the pressure all over the map. You can see that Marin has been being in mid, TP'd a lot bottom, and he has done a lot for this match. So right here, I wanted to highlight just that Azir once again, like in mid, if you're winning, you don't need to necessarily gank. You can also rotate around the map and make sure you have 2 lanes pushed in. I mentioned this before, where you have to keep the team that is winning is going to have the 2 waves pushing into the enemy. So right here we see bottom pushed in, mid pushed in, and the wave tap coming in. So that's like a perfect scenario. Azir just pushed out mid and going up top, so they're not losing any creeps, and it's very creep efficient. They don't need to waste any summoners. Maokai goes into mid to the wave that is going to be frozen in the mid, so that's perfect. Once again, good like pressure. I'm trying to find the correct word. The way the blue side team is dividing pressure is just perfect. And once again, I'm not trying to bash on CJ or anything. I feel like I'm talking a lot about the blue side, but simply you're in a situation where you need to create something out of nothing, as I said. And this is another attempt where they try to do something like that. We have full blue side vision, So Faker, in this scenario, looks at the probabilities. What can CJ do right now that could pressure us? The only possible thing they could do is either be in this bush, or in the tri bush, or be in the red side jungle, because they're not in the blue side jungle. That's why these deep side wards are so important, because if they're not visible on one side, the probability of them being the other side is 100%, you know? So these blue side deep wards is not just giving us vision on the blue side jungle, it gives us vision on the red side. It gives us, like, we can start thinking about probabilities. So Faker reads the probability of them creating a play in top side, takes it slow. I can imagine even if he wouldn't have found them in this bush, he would have probably also queued the tri bush right here. So once again, to highlight the probability factor, which you guys can also use in solo queue, the probability, let's say, it's like rolling a dice, you know, the probability of getting 6 is 1/6, that kind of a thing, you know? And if you play according to your probabilities on map, you're not going to get ganked, you're not going to get killed for no reason. And once again, I like that CJ is trying to create something, which should be the mindset when you're behind a team like SKT. So right here we can see the mindset of SKT right in this moment. They're blue side, they can keep pushing 2 waves. They are grouped in mid, want to shove in the wave, and they also have the Azir on top, so they want to push in 2 waves. When you have pushed in these 2 waves, you usually invade the red side jungle. And right here we can see like the CJ is not really in a bad position, but the fact that they notice that Gnar is in the blue side jungle, they want to kind of force his teleports right here. And he needs to kind of teleport early if they want to have any chance, but the gold disparity is just too much at this point, so they can kind of chase him down like dogs at this point. It is just a saying I use, it's not supposed to be racist at all. Come on, man. Alright, so we can obviously the strength of gold. I don't think it was like the best position for SKT to fight, but they kind of forced the teleport of the Gnar, and it came kind of late, so I don't think CJ could have created anything. Maybe if the Gnar TP came earlier, they could have possibly done better in this fight, but it's also important to note that SKT at this point have a massive gold advantage. They get the blue side vision. What I do like that CJ are doing, they recognize when SKT get this deep vision. It is rather easy to recognize when the enemy team is going to get this kind of a vision, because they can simply, when they invade your red side jungle, you're gonna assume they ward. And what are the common ward spots? The bushes. And you sweep, you place pinks, and you can kind of negate this advantage they've gained through invading your jungle. And I think in both scenarios, when I've highlighted the deep wards, both on blue side and red side, I think the CJ have done the correct response, using the sweepers, using pinks to kind of clear this vision out. You can see here, Madlife is using the sweeper. So right here, I think Faker's gonna troll, if I remember correctly. Shy flashes, alright. Yeah, Faker is trolling. So this kind of thing, like SKT, I think they're just going wild a bit. They're gonna finish first in the regular season anyway. Mid wave is not pressured, right here. Mid wave is not pressured, top wave is not pressured. Faker is doing this solo invade. He saw people on the ward, he saw Braum on the ward before he swept it, and he kinda just dwells in here and dies, you know? This is troll move. So once again, like, you need to keep pressure in the waves if you want to invade the jungle. No pressure in the waves, you're gonna die no matter how far ahead you are. So we see now, Shy has used this teleport and he's insisting on split pushing, which is kind of spooky, because sure, Az is dead, CJNs have this time window where they can actually create something, but they need to be afraid of the potential 4v4 on top. That is still something they will lose without the Gnar. And you can see this fight going on. Marin just straight up Righteous Glory engage, which is what you need to do against a poke composition like theirs, and the gold advantage is still just radiating through this, because it is very polarized, the compositions. If you can hard engage and there's no poke involved, then the comp of Sigentis is going to look very, very weak. And obviously SKT's comp is going to look very, very strong. Those 3 kills are going to secure them the Baron and eventually the game. Important to notice though that Faker, the god, made a small mistake here. He should have just went into mid. He didn't need to walk towards the top side. He should have cleared the mid wave and then eventually the bot wave. Or at least some of them, you know, because he was not needed here. But it was just a minor mistake. I just want to complain a little bit, you know, about Faker. Of course, he's a god. Best player in the world. This one was interesting. Alright. At this point, the game is kind of a done deal. So I want to just take this time to just pretty much sum up what happened in this game. I think the pressure in mid was overwhelming. It was expected that Azir will be the dominant force against the Ezreal, but it was up to another level. Coco was getting destroyed. Marin was doing very good roams, and the pressure onto the Ezreal kind of transitioned to the rest of the map. SKT got the swap, they got a good base off. I didn't really like that CJNs did not pressure the bottom side of the map where they were stronger. They took risks by trying to fight top, and it didn't pay off for them at all. So it kind of made me sad in a way, because usually you always want to play to the lane that you are stronger in, and that did not happen, because it's like no good. If you're afraid of the Eve Vayne, that is a kind of strength of the Evelyn. If you're afraid of for example, ganking a lane because for example, Vayne Gnar, I'll just use an example. I'm not sure. I'm trying to explain it without examples. Vayne Gnar, for example, Nidalee cannot gank this lane because if Eve is there, they're gonna lose this 2v2 battle, right? The 2v2 battle. I'm not saying 2v2 as an AD support versus AD support. I'm saying 2v2 as in jungle versus top. Basically the Vayne in this scenario. Then you cannot really pressure this side of the map. Bottom, they had the Corki Braum against the Maokai and the Alistar. They're gonna win that fight with the Nidalee, even if Evelyn is around. So I wanted them to pressure that side of the map. SKT though, obviously the ganks in mid worked out, the ganks bottom also worked out with Marin and the TP, and they tried to kind of, CJNs tried to play around top, which I didn't like, and generally I don't like the Gnar pick. It feels like just CJNs got emotionally scarred after what happened. You can see that we can just talk about the game a little bit. At this point with the Baron buff, it's very hard to accomplish anything for CJNs. It's very polarized what the compositions do, and it should be like a done deal at this point. Like if this was an EU game, you know, if this was an NA game, I would not say that this game is over, because you never know what would happen, you know. Maybe some guy just pentakills or something, you know. But with the in Korean league, you know, in LCK, you can kind of say with some assurance, when you see these two teams of high caliber play, then you can kind of make assumptions, you know. Even though I've watched this game before, so that maybe invalidates my point. But once again, beautiful lane swap. I think this was key. Lane swap, the pressure mid, and transitioning that pressure into wards on the blue side, and then just playing the map, which was the key factors why SKT won this first match. So I'm gonna annotate or something. The next video of the series, the best of 3, is gonna come up. I guess you should watch that if you enjoyed this one. I tried to make this video quite different. If you liked it, if you have any feedback, just hit me up on Twitter or anything. Thank you very much. I'll see you guys next time. Maybe we should run through this game in a higher speed, just to end it in a good way. So I lied, I'm not leaving it. I'm a liar, yeah. At this point, SKT can just dive. They don't need to give a shit. 10k gold ahead. They don't need to give a shit. I did not put this annotation. I'm not a sellout. This is on the video I'm watching. Obviously, credit to LOL Event bots for putting this up. That's a 10k gold lead in action. There's not much to highlight. There's not really much skill or anything. This is just a gold advantage. So once again, thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Watch the next game, please. This is a good series. SKT versus CJ. This was the first game. Thank you very much, and peace.